is Good Morning San Diego.
Migrant children entering the U.S. could affect our local schools come fall. And former San Diego County Board of Education member Mark Powell is joining us with more on some of the impacts we could see. Mark, good morning. Thanks so much for being here.
And thanks for having me.
This is something obviously our school districts in California have dealt with the increasing numbers. But given the situation at the border, we're going to continue to see some impacts, obviously, because they are welcome in public schools, and there are ripple effects of it, regardless of what your feelings are on the situation. And we are dealing with a significant teacher shortage in California, up to 10,000 vacancies, I think, as well. Talk a little bit about some of the impacts you expect to see.
Well, we're going to see impact, first of all, in the classroom. So if you've seen the test scores with San Diego Unified, we have about 80% of African American students not meeting the standards in math, about 76% of Latino students not meeting standards in math. So they're having a hard time educating our own kids. Now, let's take a bunch of students from other countries that don't speak English and put them in the classroom. It's going to have an impact on the classrooms and on the teachers, and it doesn't appear like there's a real plan in place for taking on all of these students. We had 78,000 unaccompanied minors come across the border in 2020, and we have a crisis, fentanyl crisis, a crisis at the border, but it doesn't seem like there's a plan. And if there is a plan, would they please share it with us, because we want to know what they're doing. I have kids in school. I want to know what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, being on the board, were there ever conversations about the impacts on the classroom and how to create a plan? Well,
after the pandemic, and we know that the pandemic really didn't cause this lack of the achievement gap. I think it was the response to the pandemic that did that. But now we have students that are not being educated properly. They have social promotion, so they're letting the students out into society, and they're not prepared for the job market. So when we have an influx of more students, and who knows how many we're going to get, there's millions crossing the border. I tried to do some research on it, and no one really knows what the numbers are. But we've seen the pictures of parents coming across with their kids. Now, here's a real issue, Lauren. They're coming across. I'm not sure if they have birth certificates. No one really knows who they are. No one sometimes don't even know who their parents are. They're coming across with health issues. They have to be immunized, like my kids and your kids. We have to have immunizations. So this is to protect them and also to protect us. So I do have some suggestions on what I believe school districts should do in order to implement something to help this influx of students that we're getting.
And what would those be?
Well, first of all, we have a lot of administrators or teachers that are out on administrative assignment. We need to pull all those teachers back into the classroom. So if you're doing something other than teaching, you need to get back in the classroom. We have to extend the school year. How are you going to make up for lost learning or educate these kids on a 180-day school year? You know, and kids miss about, what, 5 or 10 days a year? We have to extend the school year, and we have to petition the federal government for the resources and funds. San Diego didn't cause this crisis. It's a failed policy at the border that allows all these people to come across the border without any documentation. So you have millions of people coming across the border and without the money. So how are we going to educate these kids if we don't have money to pay for teachers? And like you said, Lauren, 10,000 teachers short. So where are we going to get them? We need to implement a program that's going to encourage students to get their teaching credential, and that's a big task.
Yeah, and that was California teaching credentialing for 2021-22 school year with the 10,000 vacancies. So, I mean, whether that's gotten better or worse, but we're also, you know, in the background of all of this, seeing a strike with the teachers' unions, at least for one of the districts here.
I understand.
I mean, that's something that's ongoing as well.
Teachers' unions, they advocate for teachers. We're advocating for the students because it's the students in the classrooms that need the help the most. And what that does is it takes away from our students' education. If you put 4 or 5 kids that don't speak English into a classroom with one teacher, that takes away resources from our students, resources such as time management for the teachers. How are they going to be able to educate students that are coming here that don't speak the language? It takes about a year or 2 years to ramp up. And then for the older kids, what are they going to do? They're just going to go out into the world and without any skills or trades, and just have to make it on their own. So this crisis that was initiated by the federal government is now trickling down to our local school districts, and it's up to the federal government to help us. We need help here in San Diego. We need resources, we need money, we need to extend the school year, we need more teachers.
Yeah, I certainly think all teachers and parents want to see, every kid succeed as best they can in the classroom.
With $1.84 billion a year spent at San Diego Unified to educate our students and these dismal results, we should expect a little bit more.
Right. Certainly a conversation that will be ongoing. Mark Powell, thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Appreciate
me.
the insight.